Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Yes, Ashu can hear.
Okay. So Hare Krishna everyone. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we continue hearing from the beautiful pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his appearance and childhood. And we are going to do something. We are going to read in prose, in another version, another translation, you could say, in prose, which the narrative flows more fluently without the purports of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who are very long, and it keeps us away, a little bit away from the narration of the stories themselves. So we are going to concentrate just on the translations of Vrindavan Das Thakur. I hope nobody feels annoyed because of that. So we don't have the Bengali here, which is a pity that. So we'll be just a prose. So the verses one after another connected in a prose, so which the flow will be better. Namaom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prasharine Nirvishesha Shunavari Pashatha Deshatarine Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yana Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Panchakalpatarubhyacha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is the summary of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. The first chapter of the first kanda, which would correspond to the first lila of the Adi Lila from Chaitanya Chaitamrita year, is divided in kandas, Adi Kanda. So it's first section is a summary of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the author in this section has been offering obeisance to his spiritual master, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, and revealing the identity of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. So I offer my respectful obeisance. I offer my respectful obeisance to my worshipable Lord and spiritual master, Sri Nityananda Raya, by whose mercy the transcendental pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya become spontaneously manifest. With 1,000 tongues, we should incessantly glorify the Supreme Lord Balaram, because his 1,000 mouths as Ananta Shesha constantly glorify Lord Krishna. Just as priceless gems are kept in secure custody, so also the invaluable jewel of knowledge about Krishna's pastimes is kept safely in the mouth of Anantadev. Therefore, the tongue which initially glorifies Balarama will automatically be qualified to vibrate the transcendental pastimes of Sri Chaitanya. The Supreme Lord, Aladar, holds his 1,000 hoods like snakes. His gigantic figure is a gigantic figure and the source of all inspiration. As Nityananda is fully transcendental and eternal existent, intoxicated by the nectar of Sri Chaitanya. Whoever sings or hears about Nityananda's supramundane character is offered the supreme shelter of Lord Chaitanya. Mahesh, and his consort, Parvati, take great pleasure in eulogizing the object of their love, Sankarshan, Nityananda Prabhu. In the midst of a million fresh young maidens, the pure devotee Sri Shiva and his consort pour out nectarine devotional hymns to Lord Sankarshan. All this is revealed in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Balarama is worshipped by the entire Vaishnava world with songs of praise. Balarama dances with his gopis in Vrindavan, and their rasa dance is the pinnacle of sublimity. The Puranas describe that Balaram performs his rasa dance during the 2 months of spring, Madhu and Madhava. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 10:65, 17, 18, 21 to 22 verses, narrating this subject are spoken by Shukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit. Balaram spent the moonlight nights of the months of Madhu and Madhava with the covered damsels in the supramundane abode of Vrindavan. The place was set aglow with the rays of the moon. The lotus and kadamba flowers bloomed freely under the influence of the moon's rays, and the soft breeze circulated their scent. In the groves on the bank of Jamuna, Balarama danced with the gopis, increasing their conjugal mood. The Supreme Lord Balaram, like an exquisite gem decorated by the cluster of gopis, performed his pleasure of pastimes. He behaved like Indra's elephant, Airavata, the controller of many she-elephants. The Gandharvas observed the rasa dance and offered their prayers. The sound of kettle drums rose from the heavens. The demigod joyously showered flowers upon them, and the Gandharvas and sages worshipped the Supreme Lord Balaram with verses praising his activities. The sages unequivocally denounce association with women, yet they sing hymns of in praise of Balarama's rasa dance with his covered damsels. The demigods attended Balarama's rasa dance to shower flower petals. They know that there is no difference between Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram, Haladar. The transcendental qualities of Balaram are obscure in the 4 Vedas, but the Puranas describe them boldly. What power do I have to describe them? However, out of ignorance, some people disregard the Puranas and reject Balarama's rasa dance as inauthentic. The 2 brothers, Lord Krishna and Balaram, performed the Rasa Krida pastimes with the gopis in the same place of Vrindavan. Once, on a radiant full moon night, at the end of the Shivaratri Brata, Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram were playing Holi in the midst of the beautiful maidens of Vrindavan. Krishna and Balaram were both pleasingly decorated with the finest jewelry, sandalwood pulp, wildflower garlands, and exquisite clothes. The fortunate gopis sang sweetly, their hearts and songs enraptured by love for Krishna and Balaram. As Krishna and Balaram praised the beauty of the nightfall, the moon and the stars appeared. The fragrance of Arabian jasmine intoxicated the bumblebees, and the light breeze carried the aromas of white lilies and lotus flowers. Considering that very moment to be appropriate, Krishna and Balaram began their pleasurable dalliances. They sang together for the pleasure of all living entities, their voices rising and falling melodiously. If a person after reading Srimad Bhagavatam, is not affectionately inclined towards Lord Balaram, then he is rejected by the Supreme Lord Vishnu and his devotees. In the words of Srimad Bhagavatam, a non-believer is a Javana, a barbarian, is destined to suffer in hell birth after birth. Faceless persons who are like eunuchs make emotional gesticulations, foolishly challenging which scripture described the rasa dance of Balaram. We are so sinful that even after reading the scriptures, he cannot accept the truth, but misinterprets the real meaning and gives his own distorted understanding. Lord Balaram is the abode of Lord Chaitanya's deep affection. Thus, offense at Balarama's lotus feet destroys all possibility of salvation. Shri Balaram appears in various forms along with all the incarnations of Lord Krishna, thus manifesting different characteristics in his loving service to the Lord. In his incarnation as Lakshmana, the younger brother of Lord Ramachandra, Balarama enacted the role of the Lord's servitor. Yet in his manifestation with Lord Krishna, Balaram serves him in every respect, as a friend and as a brother, by fanning him, putting him to sleep, glorifying him with Vedic invocations, and expanding himself as his house, umbrella, attire, jewelry, and seat. In the Stotra Ratnas 37, O Lord, your direct partial expansion and Antashesha is the source of all the various ingredients for your service in the transcendental realm of Vaikuntha. Anantashesha is famous because is manifest as your residence, bed, throne, shoes, clothes, jewelry, etc. When shall I see you with Lakshmi Devi seated upon the throne of Anantashesha? Anantashesha's partial expansion in a mighty Shri Garuda, whose satisfaction is derived from acting as the Lord's carrier in every pastime. Ananta's devotees include Brahma, Shiva, the four Kumaras, Srila Vyasadeva, Shukadeva Goswami, and Narada Muni. His glorious qualities are unlimited and are not fully understood by anyone. His original personality, the greatest mystic, the Supreme Lord, and the greatest devotee of the Vaishnavas. Thus far, you have heard about the wonderful services performed by Anantashesha. Now hear about his great opulence. Anantashesha is enthroned in the lower planetary system of Patala as his own source and repose. All worship him as his 1,000 mouths continually taste the unlimited nectar of Krishna Prema. In the court of Brahma, Narada Muni plays in his veena, and with his well-composed verses, he sings the wonderful glories of Ananta. Is it humanly possible to know the supramundane nature of Ananta Dev? Just by his glance, he sets in motion the three modes of material nature that are the cause of this world's creation, maintenance, and annihilation. Although he is one, he supports the entire variegated material cosmic manifestation himself within the pores of his person. He is beginningless and eternal. Other than Lord Shankarshan, Anantashesha, who can offer shelter to persons devoid of all material aspirations, is the support upon which the material world manifests and acts. That Supreme Lord, the cause of all causes, as appeared in his sublime spiritual form, is the most powerful. In comparison, the power of a lion is insignificant. He performs pure transcendental pastimes to capture the hearts of his dear devotees, and he destroys countless sins by manifesting his transcendental form. What more is there to say than this? Hearing or calling out the name of Lord Anantadev, either respectfully or accidentally, purifies one. Even the most degraded person is purified if he just tauntingly utters the name of Sri Ananta. Anantadeva's mighty potency is beyond measure. That Supreme Lord carries upon just one of his 1,000 heads the entire universe with all its living entities, mountains and rivers. And that universe appears to be only a minute atomic speck. Even if a person acquires 1,000 tongues, how can he describe the power of the omnipotent Supreme Lord? Anantadev, in his own shelter and source, filled with unlimited power and strength. Anantadeva is his own shelter and source, filled with unlimited power and strength. While residing in a lower planetary system as Rasatala, with complete ease born from his detachment, he holds this gigantic cosmic manifestation. This material world's creation, maintenance, and annihilation, as well as the three modes of material nature, are activated by his glance. Who can fathom Anantadeva's non-dual, transcendental, eternal, and unborn existence? Out of mercy towards the living entities, the Lord manifests his supramundane spiritual form while he performs his variegated pastimes. All living entities reside within that transcendental form. The mighty Lord Nishingadeva represents but a wave in the ocean of the Lord's unlimited pastimes, which satisfy the hearts of his devotees. Anantadeva's unlimited names, when heard or chanted by anyone in any manner, immediately sever the news of innumerable births and death. Thus, the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord always appreciate those who glorify him. Anantashesha is the supreme destination of the entire universe. His holy name is the only means for the redemption of the living entities. The Lord holds upon his head the unlimited material nature, along with his mountains and oceans, simply for his protection and maintenance. The entire universe is but a speck upon one of his 1,000 hoods, and because of his unlimited strength, it does not feel the burden in the slightest. Lord Anantadeva, the original Supreme Personality and maintainer of the entire cosmic manifestation, incessantly sings in glorification of Lord Krishna. He continuously describes every aspect of the Lord's divine attributes. Lord Krishna is eternal, and his ever-expanding attributes are unlimited. Therefore, he can never be fully described or glorified. However, the ability of Ananta to glorify the Lord is also unlimited, and eternally he is engaged in description of the Lord's qualities. In their divine relationship, neither is ever victorious. Even today, Ananta Shesha's 1,000 mouths continuously sing the glories of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. How wonderful Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram compete with each other. Brahma, Shiva, other demigods, and the perfect sages look on, feeling great exhilaration. The eternal eulogies of Anantadeva pursue the ever-expanding, elusive shores of Lord Krishna's ocean of qualities. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 2.7.41, O Narada, I, Brahma, and your elders, Shanaka and the other sages, cannot even fathom the extent of this material nature. What to speak of knowing the Supreme Lord's spiritual potencies? Anantadeva, the origin of all demigods, is unable to exhaustively glorify the Supreme Lord's transcendental opulence and potencies with his thousand mouths. Therefore, how is it possible for ordinary mortals to understand these divine potencies? Anantadeva is himself the master of unlimited attributes, and he resides in the Rasatala simply to support the vast material creation. In the court of Brahma, Narada Muni plays upon his vina and glorifies the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Lord. Brahma and his associates are stunned in ecstasy upon hearing the supramundane qualities of the Supreme Lord. All worship Narada Muni. All worship Narada Muni since he sings in description of these qualities. I have also been moved to write a few phrases in praise of the unlimited potencies of Lord Nityananda, Anantadeva, and I humbly request all of you to develop a loving devotional mood towards the Lord. Those who desire to cross over the dangerous ocean of material existence and drown in the ocean of devotional ecstasy may take shelter of Lord Nityananda. I pray to the merciful Vaishnava devotees of the Lord to fulfill the yearning of my heart. May I serve my Lord Balaram birth after birth. Just as Dvija, Vipra, and Brahmana are different names for the same person, similarly, Nityananda, Ananta, and Balaram are different names for the same Supreme Personality. My Lord Nityananda Prabhu appeared within my heart and instructed me to narrate the transcendental qualities of Sri-Caitanya Mahaprabhu in this book. The pastimes of Sri-Caitanya Mahaprabhu are revealed by Nityananda's mercy only because his personal expansion, Anantashesha, is the storehouse of information about Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna's pastimes. Although Sri Anantashesha is the embodiment of Krishna Kirtan, I have been able to offer only humble prayer in his honor. Hearing Lord Chaitanya's qualities and pastimes can clean away all material contaminations. Such pastimes are revealed only through a pure devotee's grace. For who else can know the nature and pastimes of Lord Chaitanya? Even in the Vedas, the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya are a hidden mystery. Therefore, I have compiled only first-hand accounts taken directly from the lips of the associates of the Lord. I see no beginning or end to Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. They are eternal and unlimited, and only the Lord's grace gives me the potency to compose them. I am simply Lord Chaitanya's mouthpiece, repeating as he desires, just like a dove moved by some unseen hand. I throw myself at the feet of all pure Vaishnavas so they may cleanse me of all my offenses. Oh, my brothers, please listen very attentively to the transcendental pastimes Lord Chaitanya performs with his devotee associates. The ecstatic pastimes of Lord Chaitanya have been divided into three periods: Adi, Madhya, and Antya Oshesha. Early, intermediate, and later. The early period includes a description of the Lord's education, and the intermediate portion reveals Mahaprabhu's pastimes of congregational chanting. The concluding portion describes the Lord's pastimes as a sannyasi in Nilachala, Orissa. From there, he allocated to Nityananda the mission of preaching in Bengal. The pious Sri Jagannath Mishra, Chaitanya's father, lived in Avadvip. Like Vasudeva, he consciously performed his spiritual duties. His devout and faithful wife, Srimati Sachidevi, was a second Devaki, the beloved mother of everyone. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayana, appeared in the womb of Srimati Sachidevi as Sri Krishna Chaitanya. He became the most precious possession of everyone's heart. The Adhikanda begins by describing the appearance of Lord Chaitanya on an auspicious full moon evening in the month of Phalguna, just as the moon went into eclipse. The tumultuous chanting of Lord Hari's holy name filled all directions, inspiring everyone to sing together. The Supreme Lord Chaitanya was born amidst the chanting. The Adhikanda also described the Lord's numerous childhood pastimes. Lord Chaitanya reveals to his parents his otherwise unmanifest place of residence, the holy Dham. Moreover, as they stare in wonder, he displays the signs of divinity upon his lotus feet. In this portion of the book, one day thieves kidnap baby Nimai from his house, but he tricks them into bringing him back home. Another story narrates how the Lord ate all the foodstuffs offered to Vishnu in the house of Jagadish and Nihanya on Ekadashi day. Yet another story describes the Lord sitting upon a pile of contaminated cooking pots, using the situation to instruct his mother in philosophy. In the Adhikanda, the Lord also acts like a crying baby, using his tears as a ploy to make everyone chant the holy names of Krishna. The Adhikanda discusses the Lord as a child playing with his friends, as if he were Krishna in Gokula. The Lord begins his education and with little effort masters all the scriptures. The Adhikanda narrates the disappearance of Sri Jagannath Mishra and Vishvarupa's acceptance of sannyas, and how these two disasters afflicted Sachimata. Then the Adhikanda described the Lord's wonderful pastimes as a student. He was pride personified before the other student scholars. Chaitanya's travels through Eastern Bengal are also described here. The land becomes a place of pilgrimage by the touch of his lotus feet. Chaitanya becomes the master of all different scriptures. There is no one in the three worlds to challenge his erudition. The Adhikanda describes the Lord sporting with his fellow students in their water pastimes in the waves of the Ganga. Then come the Lord's first marriage and the glorious disappearance of his first wife. He duly accepted the second wife, the daughter of a regal scholar. Once he appears to be sick from the disorder of the life airs and takes the opportunity to reveal the symptoms of Krishna Prema. While the Lord roams about as a great scholar, he empowers all the devotees who surrender to him. This narration of the early life of Sri Chaitanya includes a description of the immense joy upon Sachimata's face when she looks upon the moon-like blissful face and the graceful manner and clothes of the Lord. Then Nimai Pandita picks a pride of a scholar who was renowned as Digvijay, the world conqueror. Ultimately, the Lord slashes away the scholar's material bonds. The Lord puts everyone, even his devotees, into illusion about his real identity and roams the streets of Navadvip unknown to all. There is also a description of the Lord's pilgrimage to Gaya Dham and how he showers causeless mercy upon Ishvarapuri by accepting him as his spiritual master. The Adhikanda is a reservoir of the Lord's never-ending pleasurable pastimes. In the future, Srila Vyasadeva, the greatest of sages, will describe other pastimes. However, herein, I reveal the early pastimes of the Lord up to the time he returns from his visit to Gayadham. In the Madhya Kanda, the Lord's omnipotence becomes known, and gradually his devotees are identified as they collect around his lotus feet like bees around honey. Chaitanya reveals his absolute identity as Lord Narayana by sitting upon the altar of Vishnu in the house of Sri Advaita and Sri Vasta Pandita. Sri Chaitanya meets Nityananda Prabhu, and together the brothers make wonderful Krishna Kirtan. Then Nityananda's vision of the transcendental six-handed form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is described. Later, the Lord exhibits his universal form to Advaita Acharya Prabhu. Nityananda's Vyasa Puja has been described in the Madhya Kanda, along with the story of how he was slandered by some faithless atheists. Thereafter comes the description of Lord Chaitanya's manifestation as Balaram, when Nityananda gives him his plow and club. The wonderful redemption of the two reprobates, Jagai and Madai, who were later to become quite famous, is told in detail. Sachimata's vision of Sri Chaitanya in a blackish complexion and Sri Nityananda in a whitish complexion is also discussed. In the Madhya Kanda, Lord Chaitanya shows his unlimitedly opulent Mahaprakasha form for 21 hours. On this occasion, he reveals the transcendental truth about himself and the internal identities of all his devotees. Thereafter, Lord Chaitanya, who is Narayana, the Lord of Vaikuntha and the Supreme Absolute Reality, dances and chants as he narrates the truth about himself. Further, in Madhya Kanda, the Lord breaks the Chandikazi's pride, and manifesting his own spiritual potency, he engages in continuous congregational chanting. By the Lord's grace, the Chandkazi accepts devotional service. Immersed in ecstatic bliss, Sri Chaitanya thereafter moves from village to village performing kirtan. The Lord declares the truth about himself as he exhibits his Vahara Rupa, the four-armed form, while riding around the courtyard upon the back of his devotee, Murari Gupta. The Lord also eats some rice that Shuklambar had collected by begging and performed many wonderful pastimes in his manifestations of Lord Narayan. In the Madhya Kanda, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears before the devotees in the guise of Mahalakshmi and Rukmini Devi, the Universal Mother, and breastfeeds all the devotees who are her dependent sons. The Lord chastised Mukunda for keeping bad company, and later, when he is satisfied with Mukunda's obedience, he favors him with divine grace. Then there is a narration describing the ecstatic all-night kirtans in Navadvip, which are held regularly for a complete year. Madhya Kanda describes the mock verbal fights between Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Advaita Acharya. Only a foolish person thinks that these are actually disagreements. Then the Lord instructs his mother and simultaneously warns the whole world about the grievous consequences of offending the Vaishnava devotees. Satisfied by the prayers of his devotees, the Lord gives individual benedictions to each of them. Srila Haridas Thakur receives Mahaprabhu's mercy, and the Lord shows compassion towards Sridhar by drinking water from his pot. In the Madhya Kanda, Sri Chaitanya blissfully performs daily pastimes in the waters of the Ganga with all his devotees. Once he and Nityananda Prabhu visit the house of Advaita Acharya for a particular reason. Here in the Madhya Kanda, there is a description of the Lord's severe chastisement of Advaita Acharya, but finally the Lord shows immeasurable grace on Advaita. Then the Madhya Kanda describes how the extremely fortunate Sri Murari Gupta becomes enlightened about the identities of Lord Chaitanya as Krishna and Nityananda as Balaram. The two supreme personalities dance in ecstasy in a house of Shivas. In the Madhyakanda, the Lord explains the entire philosophical truth about human life, using Shivasa's expired son as the speaker. In this way, he alleviates everyone's suffering. News of this incident spreads far and wide, and by the Lord's grace, Shivas overcomes the shock of his son's death. In another story narrated in Madhyakanda, the Lord throws himself into the Ganga, and Nityananda Prabhu and Shri Haridas Thakur lift him out. Then Srimati Narayani receives the treasure desired even by Brahma and the demigods. She receives the remnants of the Lord's footsteps. The final story in the Madhyakanda is the pastimes of the Lord leaving home and accepting the renounced order of life for the salvation of every living entity. There are uncountable pastimes of the Lord in the Madhyakanda. Srila Vyasadeva will describe later whatever remains untouched. As the Sheshakanda opens, Vishvambar is in the sannyas order of life, and he has accepted the name Sri Krishna Chaitanya. He has shaven his head clean, thereby plunging Advaitacharya Prabhu into deep despondency. Sachimata's suffering is unbearable, yet she is sustained by the Lord's mercy. Nityananda, the manifestation of Balaram, smashes Chaitanya's sannyasa danda, and thereafter the Lord conceals his real identities and goes to Nilachala Puri. Chaitanya playfully dupes Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya when they first meet, but later he exhibits his six-handed form to him. The Lord mercifully graces King Prataparudra with devotional service and lives thereafter in a house of Kashimishra. During Chaitanya's stay in Puri, both Svarupa Damodar and Paramananda Puri become eligible to serve the Lord in the most confidential relationships. Sheshakanda also describes Chaitanya's trip through Bengal upon his way to Mathura and Vrindavan. He stays in Vidyavachaspati residence before moving on to the village of Kulia in Bengal. Millions of people gather to see the Lord upon his return to Bengal, and all who see him are liberated. Chaitanya attempts to continue upon his trip to Mathura, but after a short distance, he turns back to Bengal. Soon, the Lord returns to Nilachala and engaged there in continuous kirtan with his associates. He sends Nityananda to preach in Bengal while he remains in Nilachala with a handful of devotees. In the Sheshakanda, the Lord and all his devotees dance ecstatically before Lord Jagannatha's chariot. Lord Chaitanya travels to Rameshwaram in South India, and his journey to Mathura through the Jharakanda forest are also described in the Sheshakanda. Later, the Lord showers his grace upon Raya Ramanand and reveals other divine pastimes which he had performed in his previous appearance in Mathura. In the Sheshakanda, the magnanimous Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also graces the two brothers, Dabir Kash and Sakara Malika, by revealing his supreme identity to them. He liberates and renames them both. They become the famous Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. In Sheshakanda, the Lord travels to Varanasi. Travels to Varanasi are described. The sannyasis of Varanasi could not recognize the Supreme Lord because they were too critical of the Vaishnavas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thereafter returns to Nilachala and becomes engrossed in congregational Hari Kirtan throughout the day and night. Sri Nityananda travels throughout India as a wandering mendicant. His pilgrimages are described in the Sheshakanda. Who can understand Nityananda's unfathomable transcendental character? He roams about Mathura with ankle bells upon his feet. On Sri Chaitanya's request, he goes to Panihati and distributes devotional service, love of Krishna to everyone. Through his causeless mercy, he saves Mahamala Raya and other merchants in that locality. In the Sheshakanda, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's remaining 18 years in Nilashala is described. In this book, although numerous pastimes are related about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Vedavyasa will later tell them all in detail. Nityananda finds endless joy in glorifying Lord Chaitanya and is an unmatched expert in that art. The Lord, O Lord Chaitanya, please bless me so I may receive the transcendental service of Nityananda's lotus feet. He is the Lord of the entire universe. At every outset, I have narrated in brief the contents of this book. All of you, please hear with undivided attention the pastimes of Sri Krishna Chaitanya that follow in the later chapters. Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda are my life and soul. I, Vrindavan Das, offer my humble song at their feet. Should we stop here now and just have some sharing before I enter the second chapter? It's a summary. It's a summary of all the pastimes. The later pastimes we have heard in Chaitanya Charitamrita, but certainly not the beginning and the middle pastimes of the Lord's pastimes. So there is lots of things to be heard, lots of nectar of these pastimes. We did hear a lot from Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, because he oftentimes narrates some pastimes that were already narrated by Vrindavan Das Thakura that, interesting enough, he considers as the incarnation of Vyasadeva. And as we see also, Vrindavan Das Thakur is considered Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami as an incarnation of Vyasadeva. Will appear late to describe in more details the last pastimes of the Lord. It's amazing. So after actually both of them are incarnations of Srila Vyasadeva, manifestation of Srila Vyasadeva for the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So there are many beautiful pastimes that are going to be unveiled, particularly the childhood pastimes and the school days, and is beginning of the Sankirtana movement that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami did not narrate in detail because out of respect for Vrindavan Das Thakura's having already described them here in Chaitanya Bhagavat. So it's very, very wonderful that we are going through these early pastimes, and it's nice that we're going to read about the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu before we reach Gaur Punim. So it's nice. We're going to hear in more detail these pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's a particular incident, I don't know if you notice, that he speaks about his mother, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur. Did anyone notice that? Vrindavan Das Thakur speaks about he mentioned his mother without saying my mother. He mentions her by her name and the mercy she receives from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when she was a child. So he was actually, Vrindavan Das Thakur was born in a very special family, Vaishnava family. No wonder why he received a special mercy from Lord Nityananda Prabhu. Certainly not, Lord Nityananda Prabhu is so kind, so merciful that he gives his mercy to anyone, everyone. but particular to those who are already favored by the Lord, or already had done something, or been born in a family of a very exalted Vaishnavas, so certainly they have a much greater mercy. But we are certainly all recipients of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. Lord Nityananda Prabhu is the original spiritual master. So Srila Prabhupada and our spiritual masters are representatives of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. As you notice, in Gaudiya Vaishnava temples, perhaps you have noticed that they don't have Gaunitai. Srila Prabhupada installed Gaunitai in our temples. They only have Radha and Krishna, and they have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu next to Radha and Krishna on the side. And it's common. It was done by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur. He installed many deities of Radha and Krishna, and with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu next to them, smaller deity usually. And once I asked in one Gaudiya Math temple, I asked why you have Radha and Krishna and and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu alone without Nityananda Prabhu. In our temples in ISKCON, we have an altar with Lord Nityananda and Lord Nityananda together. He said, because Lord Nityananda is manifested in the form of Guru, is present in the form of Guru. So the Guru, in a different Gaudiya Maths, the Guru is present in the temple. So the Guru, the Guru represents Nityananda Prabhu, so he's present. That's why they have only the deity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with Radha Krishna. And also because Radha Krishna combine in one to appear as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's also another reason. My video is started. I have my video started. Why say I have no video?
It's gone.
I have, huh? My video is there. You're not seeing. My video is there. Oh.
Okay, there. Better now.
Is there?
Yes.
Is there now?
Yes, Ashu.
Okay. Why is it so important to see my face? So, yes. So, does anyone notice a passage where he mentioned about his mother, without saying that is his mother? Just mention her name and the mercy she receives from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when she was a young girl. She was only 4 years old. We describe this pastime in Chaitanya Charitamrita. We describe this pastime. This was when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the first time, we're going to read this pastime later in detail. The first time he goes to the house of Srivas Pandita and manifests. He manifests his real form as the Supreme Lord Narayan and stands on the altar of Srivas Pandita's room, in his temple room. And Srivas Pandita was dumbfounded. He could not say a word. He was amazed because Nimai Pandita was Nimai Pandita that everybody knew, but he could never think that he was the Supreme Lord because he was covered by Yogamaya. But at that time was when the Lord came from Gaya and he decided to start revealing his identity to everyone. First, he revealed this mood of devotee, and then gradually started revealing his identity. So Shivasa was the first recipient of that, the revelation of the Lord as being the Supreme Lord in his own house. And then the Lord, in that form, he told Shivasa to call all the members of the family and the servants, everyone in the house, to come and have his darshan. And at that time, yes, he tells Narayani, the mother of Vrindavan Das Thakur, was just a young girl, 4 years old, and he told her, Narayani, dance in ecstasy. And Narayani was just a 4 years old girl. He did not understand the philosophy, nothing. And she started dancing and crying in ecstatic mood of prema bhakti. Amazing. Everybody was so amazed. And she took the prasadam of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he mentioned that without saying my mother, he said Narayana got the mercy in this particular pastime. Then Narayana also received the mercy of the Lord by receiving his prasadam. So it's very nice, very interesting. So does anyone have any comment? You still have 8 minutes. Any comment or anything? Certainly here is more. It's just a description, a summary of the pastimes. There's no much description as yet. I choose to change into this narrative in prose, so the flow of the story goes better if we want really to imbibe the story of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his pastimes. So we have done like this, and I think myself, I feel more comfortable in one sense because the flow is much better. The translation is done in a very rich English. I know the devotee who has made a translation, and the devotee who had edited both very, very good in English language. And it's very, very well done work. Just is a pity, it's not with the verses as we did with Chaitanya Chaitamrita Bengali verse. But okay, we did for Chaitanya Chaitamrita. Now for Chaitanya Bhagavata, we're going to do like this.
Krishna, Ashu.
Yes.
Do you think
Yes.
we can finish the book before the Gora Purnim? Gora Purnim is on March 18. Is it that
March 18th.
or is this
I
book will take some time?
No, I don't think we'll finish by that time. No.
I see.
No. But we'll cover most of it. We'll cover most of it. Because we have only one reading per week, so it's going to be what, 4, 6, 8 weeks, 10 weeks before Gopunim. I don't know. No, I don't think we finish. No, it's not possible. It's practically as big as Chaitanya. Of course, here we don't have any purpose. It's just the verses. But I don't believe we're going to finish before. Never mind, we do as much as we do.
Thank you, Ashu.
Okay, since there is no other comments or questions or sharings, we begin the next chapter, the second chapter, the appearance of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's a warm-up for upcoming Gora Punim. So let's imbibe this, because Vrindavan Das Thakur enter into more details not described by Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami. So we're going to hear much more details on appear of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Das Thakur ki jai, Srila Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bo.
Thank you, Ashu.